Welcome to this mini-series called The West Wing and the Bible, where we've been going through what the West Wing says about the Bible, because we love the West Wing and we love the Bible. And we've been trying to just discuss some of the salient points along the way, and this is the last in this series, and it's from season 7, episode 4. I think it's called Mr. Frost. These are the dark days of the West Wing. All of the skill has been taken out of the writing. It's like just rubbish. But I'm going to play this one right through. It's 2 minutes 54. So if you just want to skip this bit because you've seen it, jump ahead 2:54. We'll talk about it in one go because they essentially make the same point over and over again.
We've only just received the news.
Congressman, you're aware that this state's Board of Education is questioning the teaching of evolution.
That's a state matter, and I don't think this is the right time. Thank you.
Congressman, could you tell us if you believe in intelligent design?
I believe in God, and I'd like to think he's intelligent.
Does that mean you believe it should be taught in schools, Congressman? Congressman, does that mean you don't believe in evolution? Judge, can we get a follow-up question, please?
It was a gap.
It was
It was worse than that. It was a God gap.
Can we please not call it that?
He said he believed in intelligent design.
That's not what he
I
said.
didn't say he didn't.
Didn't say he did.
I think this computer's running an update or something, so we've dropped frames, but you can still hear it, and that's what matters, isn't it?
Yeah.
The show will go on.
Creationism with a Groucho man.
It isn't. It deviates enough from the Bible to say that the earth is indeed over 6,000 years.
Zippity-doo-dah.
And it doesn't say that God created everything, but perhaps an intelligent designer was behind it.
When asked if he believes in intelligent design, he responds, I believe in God. That sounds like yes. It sounds like he wants the Bible taught in biology class, which of course,
He doesn't.
he got pulled off message, which means that we are off message, which means that we are out of control.
You're right.
Congressman Santos, do you believe in the theory of intelligent design?
What's your name?
Michelle Banks. I teach 10th grade science here at the school.
Well, Michelle, as a Catholic who attends church every Sunday, I do believe in God, and my faith tells me that there was a designer behind
Time
it
for
all.
us to leave.
School?
The state.
Yes, sir. What's your name?
Clifford Reynolds. I teach English here at Leonard.
Nice to meet you, Clifford.
Thanks. May I ask you if you believe in the theory of evolution?
Well, I think it'll be fairly difficult to teach geology, anthropology, and zoology without evolution, so yes, I do. I don't think it's contradictory to believe in science and believe in God.
Do you believe that the theory of intelligent design and the theory of evolution should be taught alongside each other in the public schools?
Absolutely not. One is based on science and one is based on faith. Intelligent design is not a scientific theory, it's a religious belief, and our Constitution does not allow for the teaching of religion in our public schools.
Many of us here would be more comfortable if our children were taught all points of view.
And I'm all for that. Evolution is not perfect, doesn't answer every question, but it is based on scientific facts. Facts that can be predicted, tested, and proven. Intelligent design asks theological questions. I'm sure that many of us would agree that at the beginning of all that begatting, something begun. What was that something?
Congressman Santos, many of us want a version of science taught to our kids that's in accordance with our beliefs.
I understand. But can't we agree that the inclusion of non-scientific explanations into the science curriculum of our schools misrepresents the nature of science and therefore compromises a central purpose in our public education, which is the preparation of a scientifically literate workforce?
So the main point there is basically they're throwing shade on creationism and intelligent design, which they say is a faith-based religious thing, very opposed to any credible science at all. It's a religious belief, but in school we actually deal with facts. It's not that clear cut though, is it? It's not, and there are actually a butt-ton of Christian scientists.
Yeah, and that, as you say, the division between facts and, I guess, meaning or theology, science, theology, and they belong to totally different. That, again, is this classic Enlightenment thing that was done, that you go, oh yeah, like church, that's personal opinion, science, that's the way the world really is, kind of thing. But that is, of course, ridiculous because science, the whole modern scientific project, was begun by essentially the most devout Christians of all, like Puritan people and things like that, overwhelmingly like that. And the reason they believe that science worked and is worth pursuing is for theological reasons. Like, why do we think the world is real, reliable, rational? All the kind of key things are for that was because of the Bible, for a Christian viewpoint. Most of the world down through the ages did not believe the world was real, rational and reliable, but Christians did. Why? Because Jesus is the logic of the universe. And the rest of the world's like, maybe it's demons who do it, and maybe it's all an illusion. There's still one of the biggest ideologies in the world, is that the physical world is just an illusion. It's not worth studying. Christians all the time, right from thousands of years, no, it's real. It makes sense. We can study it. And even going back into the law, the idea that you can make a model of the universe with mathematical precision. All of that is part of our deep worldview. And the interesting thing is, when you really do lose that theological basis for science, science becomes like, it was hinted a bit, where it's like, what do we want? We want scientifically educated people for a workforce. You're like, so you don't really kind of believe in science for its truth's sake. It's for the sake of employment. And I'm saying, like, actually, Christians had a higher view of science than that, to say it doesn't really matter whether you're ever going to use it in your workforce, like your job. Why not just study it? Because it's true. And it's kind of a thinking God's thoughts after him. Like, let's try and understand the way the living God, the Father, through the Son, in the power of the Spirit, has designed this wonderful universe and left his fingerprints all over it. And let's try and understand that and enter into it with confidence that it all will make sense, because the one who designed it is the Logos.
Do you think it should be taught in schools, biblical creationism and things like that?
I kind of think, like, the problem, like, science actually, the whole perspective of science should be taught better. Like, why do we do science? What's it for? Why are we so confident that it will work everywhere in the universe? And then beliefs about, like, the origin of the universe. Loads of theories, and there are multiple theories about the origin, scientific proposal. They're all theological. They're all got connected into them ideas about the meaning of life and the origin of things. So I'm simply saying, I think it's strange to go, the modern scientific project is a Christian project resting on Christian doctrines about creation. And then to say, but we are going to quite arbitrarily say we're not going to allow students to think about the science they're doing in a theological... You see, kids want to ask those sorts of questions. What does this mean about God? What does it mean about the origin of the world? What does it mean about human beings and the relationship to animals? And what does death mean? What does that... They ask all those questions. Kids don't have artificial boundaries. They want to say, oh, but you've just said this. What does that mean? And it's weird if the teacher's like, stop it. Yeah. Only certain kinds of questions can be asked in this classroom. And then if they go into say they're having religious studies, and then in there they'll go, well, what does this mean about, I don't know, the age of the world, or what does this mean about the dignity of human? And then that teacher will go, stop it! We're going to only ask certain kinds of questions. Wouldn't it be great if you could just genuinely have a truly open-minded education where all questions can be genuinely, rationally, rigorously pursued, answered, handled, that we were confident enough to be able to just do that instead of policing children all the time, saying, you can only ask, and we've got a list of questions you can ask, because they'll even say at school, we want you to be critically thinking. We want you to bring questions and think, But, oh no, hang on. No, we don't actually. Here's a pre-prepared set of questions. You can ask any questions off this list as long as you're happy with the pre-prepared answers. That's rubbish. I really think education needs to be much bigger and more adventurous and not geared only to the workplace. But, it doesn't matter whether people will ever use these things in work. Let's just study things and ask big questions and have the confidence that real answers are out there.
And don't you find that there is scope for in-house debates about what Genesis teaches, and that there's different strands of thought about processes that God might have used, or when and how long, and what does the Bible say about these things? There's a freedom there to discuss.
Yeah, I find that when you're among Christians, there might be strong debates and but the Christians take all sorts of different views and have discussed this kind of particularly evolution one for about 150 years, and there's no sign of that one disappearing quickly, that debate. But even going back before that, similar kind of thoughts about how exactly has the Lord done this, and to what extent did he use natural processes, or to what extent has he miraculously intervened? Christians are kind of relatively relaxed about the whole discussion. But when you get Enlightenment kind of atheists, they get super intense about it because it's an existential threat to them. Because they've only got one possible answer. They're like, no, it's got to be only this one. And then as soon as Christians are like, yeah, but could it be that? No, it cannot be that. And in fact, we're going to pass legislation to prevent you even suggesting any other alternative other than just this one. And I find that when I try to distort, I'm kind of relaxed about it. But typically, your sort of materialistic atheist gets so emotionally intense because it is an existential issue. So my only advice to Christians is remember that if you are getting into this sort of a debate or discussion with a materialistic atheist, they are going to get emotional, and they may get quite irrational almost, and they might even become hostile to you. But just try to remember, give them a bit of space, because you can handle a lot of discussion on it. For them, it's existential threat to their entire intellectual system. So just try to help them with that and just say, no, calm down, don't worry, let's just, because that's what often happens.
There's also the strand here that there's sort of nothing outside of science. There's no value of anything outside of science. Almost to park that somewhere else if it even does exist. But I remember reading once that there are a few important things that you need more than simply science to explain. Like ethics, why is something wrong? You can't scientifically prove that some of the evils that have happened are wrong. So to go all in on science and nothing but can get you right up the creek. And aesthetics, why is something beautiful? Beyond just quantifying the biological strands behind it, why is something beautiful? And there's a whole realm of
purpose statements.
Purpose.
You can say, how does the tree grow? What for? Why is a tree growing? Oh, I don't know. And it's the way in which it's like we were saying, in a science class, they give the impression we want kids to be questioning. But then they'll say, okay, why is the sky blue? And they'll go, oh, that's got... No, I don't mean why are trees green or something? And they'll say, oh, it's chlorophyll. Yeah, but why is chlorophyll green? And they're like, I don't know, it just is. See, they have to in the end, because you know what kids are like. They just keep asking the question, why that though? Why that? And if you just say, well, you can't ask any question unless it fits within these kinds of questions. But most questions are not those sort of questions. Purpose and meaning and all sorts of things, and that's right.
And not to bash a Welshman, but didn't Bertrand Russell say something ridiculous, there's no truth outside of science, which if that statement is true, then it's false.
It's false, yeah.
Because it's a non-scientific statement.
And it's true, can you scientifically demonstrate the truthfulness of science? No, you can't, because like the starting points are things like, I'm going to proceed as if the universe is real, rational, reliable, and therefore I believe the experiments that I'm doing, that they are meaningful and things like that. But all of those statements you have to just believe for some other reason outside of it. And that's okay, that's good, that's a good thing, that's a good thing. But if you've got yourself wrapped up into this little knot, nothing's true except that's scientifically verifiable, logical positivism, A.J. Err and all that, you're in a right old mess, because as you say, the thing itself can't be scientifically demonstrated. Yeah.
So all of that comes back to Jesus, the Bible, purpose, forgiveness, morality, ethics, everything we've covered and discussed about in this mini-series. There is real value in exploring these things further. The Christian worldview is not without merit and glory. We've discussed these things openly, and we hope that somewhere on your journey of enjoying the West Wing, but just being in the world, you will really consider some of the subjects that we've talked about. Church, the Word of God with Jesus at the center. Give it a go. And we've really enjoyed the West Wing. But better than even the West Wing is we've enjoyed following the Lord Jesus Christ in our life. He's never let us down. And we hope something in this series has been of help. See you at the next one that we do on something. Cheerio.